step one, is to check proximal contacts. If the contacts are tight, the occlusion is going to be high, or you'll shift the adjacent teeth and alter the occlusion, and the margins will be open. So it's silly to check the other things until you check the proximal contact. So on this one, if I floss through here, it seems like there's a nice snap on the mesial contact. On the distal contact, it's a little tight. So I try to floss through here, and it's snug. If that happens, it's too tight. Okay, so that means you get your rubber wheel and you reduce that contact. You should have your flexi wheel available, or your porcelain pre-finishing wheel for gold. These are what you'd use to adjust the proximal contact on gold. We're not familiar with adjusting porcelain yet, but these things with the yellow rings on them that you've got in one of your boxes that says porcelain polishing kit are dialite wheels. Same sort of thing. It's a rubber wheel, a silicone bonded rubber wheel, but it's got diamond abrasive in it rather than aluminum oxide. And so it will cut porcelain and gold the same. So you could use this to polish your gold. It's just that these cost, $20 a piece, and these cost $1. So you generally want to save these, and some of the big ones are 35 or so. So basically, you want to save these for your porcelain. They last a long time. They're excellent. You'll not be dissatisfied with them once you start using them when you compare them to other things, but they are expensive. The main thing with these, in case we don't have a chance to talk about it later, the thing that can ruin them is putting them in an autoclave with instruments on top of it. The heat will make them distort, and then they wobble when you try to polish. But as long as you autoclave them without weight on them, they can be autoclaved. These can be autoclaved, and have them ready for your patient when you're cementing. So here I'm just taking the flexi wheel. I'm going to go ahead and just yes, I'm sorry. Just arbitrarily reduce it a little bit, and I don't want a high shine on it. It won't work on the ivorine, but if it was a natural tooth there, if I left that a little dull, when I jam it down, many times it'll have a shiny spot where it burnished the contact. So after you got it adjusted to where the floss doesn't shred, you would go ahead and polish it with a brownie and greenie again. So all your cementation appointments, be ready to adjust proximal contacts, be ready to adjust occlusion. So now that goes in and out, and it's not a big deal. It's just you have to be ready to do that and take care of it. If you leave it tight like that, yes, in a week the teeth will move, and it might be okay for most people, but you've also altered the occlusion on the other teeth. You could then cause other contacts to open up, get food impaction. You've lost control. So you want to control things in this process, both with your occlusion and your proximal contacts. So if it's tight adjusted, if it's open, what do? We solder on, which Simon in the lab here, Simon Evan-Sessian, if you take it to the professional lab, can solder in about 5 minutes and then polish it in a half an hour. Or if it's a PFM, which is most common, he can fire porcelain. It takes about 45 minutes at a 20-minute firing cycle, got to cool down, then it has to be polished again. So he can have that corrected as long as you give him the model, tell him how much needs to be added, where it needs to be added. He can do that for you right away. In your own. No. I mean, if you find it out early, you're fine. So typically, you can twiddle your thumbs for a while or do something. Maybe you got an occlusal kit or a sealant or something you can do while that's happening. So we've got our proximal contacts. Step number 2 is margins. Visually look at your margins. Supragingival margins, the best way to check them out is visually. There's generally some subgingival margins, and you want to check all the margins. So generally, you're going to go perpendicular to the margin, go up and down, and feel for either a step going up or a step going down. Going down, feeling a positive step means you've overpolished the crown. Going up, feeling it means the crown is sitting out for the margin. That's the bigger area. So if you feel that, you might want to take your flexi wheel and polish it down a little bit and correct that. If you actually feel it both ways, then you've got an open margin, and you want to consider looking internally and seeing what you can do. There are several products available that are similar to what you use. The Dicam, I'm not excited about using that because it's a machinist layout fluid that is for adjusting machine parts. if you ask any dental supply to give you some Dicam, they won't know what you're talking about. Nobody uses it outside of the school. They do make things like high mark, which is something you paint on and check for occlusion. These tend to be very thick, so you're going to get marks everywhere. But you know, there are products that are similar to it. So the thing that you can always use is a low viscosity impression material. Fit checker is not in the nice, easy mixed tube, the auto mixed tubes. But there's a catalyst and base that you just mix on a pad with a spatula, put it inside the crown and seat it. It's just low viscosity impression material. It sets in a minute and a half. So it's a lot faster setting. There's a black one for your ceramic inlays, a white one for your gold crowns. So you can use that. That's available in clinic. The white one is available in clinic. And it's something that here, if you had a problem, you could take your low viscosity impression material, fill it up, put that on as if it was cement. When you peel it out, you'll see the gold show through the areas where it's touching. So that's the way you would check in the mouth if it's not seating down, if your margins are open.